So in the next couple of series of videos, I'm going to show you how to put the border on this blanket. So this first video is going to be this section of the border here, which is basically mimicking the solid granny square. So here's my mini blanket that I've been making. This one's just 3 by 3, but I do have the solid granny squares set at each corner because I want the first round of the border to match the corner in colour sequence as well. So the last colour of this round was the cream, so I'm going to be doing the border with the green, which is olive green, and I'm using Yarn Smith's Cotton DK and a 3.75 hook, which I've lost again. Here it is. Okay, so this first setup round, we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, we're going to be sorting out what happens at this junction where the seams are. And then we're also, again, even with the border, we're going to be addressing the stitch count differences between this block and this block. If you just crochet 1 stitch into each, they've got different stitch counts. You won't get an even looking border. I mean, it's just a blanket, you could probably get away with it, but I like to have things evenly spread out, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing you're going to do is, with this border, you'll need to start in a corner, any corner, and you're going to join the yarn. So I like to leave a longish tail at the back. I'm going to pull up a loop and I'm going to chain 4, and as I do the chain 4, I'm going to be weaving the tail up the chain, making sure I don't tighten the chain, keeping, that's the cat jumping on the light box, so if you hear any weird noises, that'll be her getting comfy up there. So as I've done the chain, let's do that again because the cat was very distracting. Tail at the back, oh, she's gone. Pull up a loop, chain 1, weave the tail over. If it's on the right, you weave it to the left, and if it's on the left, you weave it to the right. So I'm basically just laying it over the working yarn before I make the chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If your first chain there is a little bit baggy, you just pull the tail. Make sure everything matches the gauge evenly. You don't want to pucker this first chain. That's one of the biggest problems I see, is people make their chains way too tight. Anyway, I've got a chain 4 there, and then this next bit is very more or less the same as you're doing the corner of these solid granny squares. After the chain 4, I'm going to put 2 double crochets into the space. So if you like, but you don't have to, you can weave the tail into this as well. So you halfway through the stitch, you get the tail, you lay it across the working yarn, you finish off the double, then you make the second double, which of course is a UK treble, and you catch it in there. So I've done a lot of weaving in there. Technically you could probably actually trim that off now, but I will sew it in one more time. Right, so the first thing we need to do is get this. We're just going to be putting just double crochets, 1 in each stitch, including on this traditional granny square. However, as we know from joining, this motif has got more stitches than this motif. So with the border, I also want each section of the border to have the same number of stitches, otherwise it's not going to look right. So for this solid granny square, I've got 24 stitches, and that's for this SG, that's for solid. And then for this traditional granny square, I'm not counting the chains this time because we will be doing something else with those. I've got a traditional granny, I got 21 stitches. Okay, so I need to get them both the same. I want them to be equal. So if I decrease this by 2, I will get 22 stitches. decrease by 2. And if I increase by 1 for the traditional, I will get 22 stitches, so increase by 1. Okay, so it's up to you whether you just do this by memory or whether you mark where you're going to put your increases and decreases. So it might be if you've got different colour stitch markers, it can be quite handy. Might be quite easy, might be beneficial to have, let's say, white for the decreases and red for the increases. So even these, you can do it by eye. I tend to just do it by eye for this. So I need to do two decreases. So we'll do one there and one there. But if you were doing it by numbers, because there's 20 stitches, we want to decrease by 2. Each decrease uses 2 stitches, so we use 4. 20 minus 4, 24 minus 4 is 20. Divide that by 3. Can't really do it. You could divide it by 6, 8 and 6, remembering that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stitch marker marks the first stitch of the decrease. Then you'll use the second stitch for the decrease as well, because remember, it's always in crochet we decrease by crocheting 2 stitches, creating 1 stitch out of 2. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 empty. So then the next set of decreases would start here. 1, 2, you end up using 2 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So technically that's 6 empty. Place the stitch markers for your first decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 empty. Place a stitch marker for your next decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 empty, and that would be an even decrease. With this, increase is nice and easy because we've got an odd number of clusters. So we 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the middle, and literally we're going to increase in the middle. And the increase is nice and easy because we're just going to put 2 stitches in one. Anyway, this sounds more complicated than it is. Basically, just place 2 markers evenly there. If you're doing this pattern exactly, you just do what I'm saying. If I've only explained it just in case you have got your own 2 different motifs that you want to level off, so that you know how I did it and why. Anyway, now we've done this first partial corner, first round. I'm going to be working in the back loop only, just to kind of mimic what was going on with the seam. Back loop only. Double crochets, which are UK trebles, 1 into the back loop of each stitch until we get to the marker. Remember, at the marker we want to decrease. And again, we're still using back loop only. Back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2, don't finish that stitch, yarn over into the next back loop of the next empty stitch, pull up a loop, we've got 4, yarn over, draw off 2, you've got 3, yarn over, finish off both stitches together. That's our first decrease, which is double crochet 2 together. Then you're going to put a double crochet into each stitch until you get to the next marker. And again, we're going to do another decrease here. Yarn over into the back loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over into the next back loop of the next stitch, pull up a loop, you've got 4, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 3. That's our second decrease, and then we're going to put 1, double into the back loop of each of the remaining stitches. Okay, so currently looking like this. We've got 2 decreases there. They look really nice, not particularly obvious. Next up, we are going to be dealing with this seam area. We've got a corner space, a seam, which is using up one of the chains from this block, and then one of the chains from this block, and then another corner space. So we're just going to do something a little bit different here, just to help level off, because you get a natural dip, because most crochet squares are not true squares, they are sort of rounded squares. So we're just going to try and address that a little bit with what we're going to do next. We're going to do another decrease, but this time only in this block. Okay, so we're going to yarn over, and we're going the chain, this, you should have 1 empty chain left here from your seam. You're going to go into the back loop of that, you're going to pull up a loop, you're going to yarn over, and you're going to draw off 2. So that's a partial double there. Going to yarn over again, and then into this second chain that has got the slip stitch seam, you're going to put another partial double. So yarn over into the back loop of the second chain of this motif I'm still in, pull up a loop, you've got 4, yarn over, draw off 2, then you're going to yarn over and draw off all 3. So we've done a decrease there, which is kind of helping to pull up the corner to level it off. So this first round, it kind of doesn't get rid of that dip completely, but it really does help smooth out these dips you get from the seam. So we're going to do exactly the same on this side. So we're going to yarn over. We can clearly see here this chain that's got the slip stitch seam in it. We're going to pull up a loop, we're going to yarn over it, we're going to draw off 2. We're going to yarn over, and then this next chain, sometimes this chain can be a little bit small, but again we're still going into the back loop of it. Pulling up a loop, we got 4, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2, and then we're going to carry on in sequence, which for this is basically just 1 double, carry on in pattern, 1 double in each of the back loops of every single stitch from the cluster. So just have a quick look at that. So you can see how you can imagine with a bit of blocking as well, that would really fix that, but that's nicely dealt with, that seam, without actually exaggerating the dip. A lot of the time I've seen people putting borders on things and they end up making that dip worse. The thing we also don't want to do is we don't want to be crocheting into this seam, because also that tends to distort the work a bit. So this is a nice, what I call a setup round for the border, because we're fixing 2 things. We're evening out the stitch count for each block, and then we're also sort of trying to smooth out these dipped edges. So very straightforward now, apart from when we get to our next stitch marker. Remember, red, I've done red is an increase, so depending on your own personal, whatever blocks you happen to be using, obviously if you're just doing another version of this exact same pattern, then you can just do what I'm doing. So in this next, no, keep going, back loop only. I've got a little tip for you as well for increasing in the back loop only, because what can happen is you can, when you put the 2 stitches into one back loop, can really pull that back loop open. It's not really a massive problem, but you can put the increase in the second stitch in a slightly different place. So remember, an increase is just putting 2 stitches into one. So I'm going to go into the back loop, but I'm going to tilt the work to the back so I can see the back ridge of the stitch. So the second stitch is not just picking up the back loop, it's also picking up the back ridge, and that just helps stabilize that stitch a bit. So there's my increase. Rest is straightforward. We're doing 1 in each, back loop only. And here we've got another seam to deal with. So remember the pattern, it was 3 double chain, 2 3 double, 1 chain has been used for the seam, we've got 1 empty chain. We're going into the back loop of that chain. I did a yarn over first. Yarn over into the back loop of the first chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over again into the back loop of the second chain. So this has got the slip stitch join in it, so it can often look a little bit small. Pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 3. There's our first decrease dealing with that seam, and then we're going to do the same on this motif. So the first chain we're working into, back loop of the chain, is where this crocheted slip stitch seam is. So pick up the back loop there, in you go, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over again. Now it should be 1 empty chain here, back loop only, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2, and resume in pattern. Now I'm going to pop, I'm not going to be super accurate with this. Remember, I have still got to do my increases here. You might want to mark all your increases and decreases before you start. It's so easy to get into a rhythm and then completely forget and then wonder why your border is looking a bit odd. So remember, on the solid granny square, which is for me it's on the corner here, I am going to do a decrease. I mean, if you've got a really good memory, you don't need to do that, but so back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over again, next back loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2. So that's our first decrease. Keep going. Second decrease. Done it a bit early, but I think you know what to do. I don't need to talk you through that. And then we come up to another corner. So this is a full corner. So I'll just go over that quickly. Very easy. What you're used to with these. When you get to the corner, you're going to do 2 double, UK treble if you're doing British terminology, chain 2, and then another 2 double, and then you're just going to continue round in exactly the same way. 2 decreases on each of these solids, 1 increase in the middle of this traditional granny, using these, decreasing into these corners when we hit the seams, decrease there. When you come to the next corner, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet till you get all the way back round, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go all the way round and I'll meet you back in a minute. So I'm just coming up to the end of this round, and I'm going to put 2 double crochets, one double crochet back into this very first corner, and then I'm going to slip stitch into my 3rd chain to close off the round. 3rd chain of the beginning, chain 4. Remember, we did a chain 4 at the beginning, so you should have 1 proper double there, a chain 1, and it will be the next one there if you're struggling to read from the other side. Slip stitch join. So let's have a quick look at how that's looking. Remember, this setup round, there might still be a little bit of a dip there, but as we progress adding more rounds on, that will really sort that out. So that's basically round one, or what I call the setup round, complete. You don't need to fasten off because we are going to do in total 6 rounds of alternating colour of just 1 double crochet in each stitch and then increasing in the corner. So in essence we're just doing like a giant one of these solid granny squares. So we're going to do another 5 rounds, and each round we're going to alternate colour. So you're going to get your cream colour and join in the same as before. So I've got the tail over to the right, I'm holding it at the back of the work as if it's already joined. I'm going into the chain, this very first corner space, and I'm pulling up a loop, and I'm pulling the loop up through the previous live loop. Give the green a little bit of a pull there, and now I am going to chain 4. As I chain 4, I am going to be weaving the colour that I'm not using, in this case now the green, up inside the chain. So I'm going to do chain 1, weave the green from right to left, so I'm just laying it across the top of the working yarn, chain 1, get the green, pass it back over the other side, chain 2, that's actually my 3rd chain technically, and then I'm not going to bother weaving again. I'm going to do chain 4, and you can see that I've carried that green up there. The trick to this is don't make these chains too tight because it will pucker your work. Now I'm just going to leave this green over to that side because I'm not going to need to use it until the next round. So let's go again. This is nice and easy now. Back into this same space, 2 double crochets, and again with these it's important to make sure you don't miss this very first stitch here. Now we're reverting back to the same pattern as the motif, so we're going through both loops here, okay, both loops of each stitch. You're just going to put 1 double in each stitch of this round, this big round, depending on how many blocks you've made. Could be a lot of stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1 in each, and there's nothing unusual here because like even here, like where I hit a decrease from, you know, from what you're going into, it's no different from one stitch to another. There's nothing here to worry about, no increasing other than in the corners, and no decreasing either. So it's literally just one for one. So I'm going to go ahead until I get to the next corner. You already know how to do it, but just to make sure, I will show you how to do a corner. So coming up to this corner, and it's the same as before. You are going to do 2 doubles, 2 chains, 2 doubles all in that corner space, and then you're going to go round 1 in each stitch through both loops. When I get to the next corner, I'll do 2 double chain 2, 2 double, 1 in each stitch all the way around to the next corner, 2 double chain 2, 2 double, and I'm just going to go round now, and I'll meet you back at the very first corner to show you how to switch to round 3, how to finish this round 2, how to start round 3. I mean, you probably already know what to do now. It's, you know, pretty straightforward until we need to switch to the final section of the border. So I'm just coming up to the end of the round, and we finish this just the same as we did the solid granny squares. So again, back into this very first corner space with 1 double, and we're slip stitching into the third chain. 1, 2, 3. All this way it'll be, this is the first double, there's a chain 1, that's the stitch we go into, slip stitch, move, oops, got a bit tangled up there, move this colour over to the right, pick up colour A or whatever colour you're using as the first colour, and then I'm just pulling, going into the space and pulling that new colour through, chain 1, weave the colour I'm not using over the top, chain 2, back the other way, chain 3, chain 4, tighten that up gently, make sure that chain's not too tight, and then 2 double crochet into that first corner, and then carry on 1 in each stitch. When I get to the next corner, I'll do 2 chain 2, 2, 1 in each stitch, etc, etc, etc. Come back around this way, 1 double in there, join with a slip stitch in there. So in total I need 6 rounds like this. So I've done 2 rounds, I'm starting a third round. I'm going to go ahead and do, this is pretty straightforward, basically what we've already been doing. I'll meet you back when I've finished doing the 6 rounds, but don't fasten off because we're going to go switch straight into doing the second part of the border round. So I'm just coming up to the end of this last round for this section of the border, and so again I've gone into each stitch, and then in this first corner I worked into, I'm going to put 1 double, join with a slip stitch into the third chain. I'm not going to fasten off though, because we're just going to carry on for the next part of the border. So I'm just going to show you what this bit of grass, what this is looking like. So we've basically just got 6 rounds that's like basically exactly the same as our solid granny, and it's just going all the way around. So yeah, don't worry too much at the minute if it's not really lying flat or anything, should be more or less flat. So that's the end of this video. I'm going to do another video for the final part of the border round. So if you're watching this, I presume that you are making this blanket or something similar, so let me know in the comments. I love to see what you're making, so please do share, and also like, comment, follow, all the usual things that will help me to carry on making more free content for you.